Even in a country gripped by catastrophe, this may be its most desperate corner. The few remaining children's wards left operating in Afghanistan are flooded with weak, starving babies. The children of jobless fathers and malnourished mothers. An entire generation fighting to stay alive against the odds. Son of Saddam, written on a piece of tape stuck to this child's chest, is all that identifies him. With each shallow breath, his chances of making it grow thinner. This ward is packed. Frail, sick babies lined up next to one another in beds meant for one.
We have a little space, not a large space for every baby, to adjust every baby to one bed.
So you put 2, 3 in a bed?
2, 3 or 4 sometime in one bed.
Dr. Abdul Jabad despairs at the numbers who come and never recover. Almost a third don't make it. That means 4 or 5 of the babies in this room will die. It's the very crowding that kills many, with weak, malnourished bodies unable to fight off infections from the others.
We have not a specific sterilization process here. Most of the baby take infection from the ward. You see here, 2 baby in one bed.
Downstairs in another ward, Dr. Marwa examines Ayaz. The lack of nutrients in his diet has led to a severe skin condition.
Yeah, it gets worse, it gets infected. It's very dangerous.
His father was a laborer. His mother with little to give him. In another bed nearby lies Omid. His muscles have wasted away. At 18 months old, he weighs just over 10 pounds. He should weigh twice that. It took only a few months for Afghanistan's poorest to be gripped by hunger once the government collapsed. Without the government and its funding from the international community, the economy is in free fall. Millions have lost their livelihoods and jobs within the government and internationally funded organizations. And with a Taliban authority sweeping to power in August, aid agencies cannot send support to a recognized terrorist group. Across town, the newly jobless shuffle forward in line for help from the UN's World Food Programme. Many of the men here have never needed to live off handouts before, but these are desperate.
There is hunger back home. We have food, but very little. We just put something small in our stomachs. There is no work and no money.
The distribution is guarded by Taliban gunmen. If aid can be dispensed without it government, then it can get around sanctions.
Although the aid that went from the US government to the Afghan government has been stopped, there is still some coming from USAID directly to civilians here through the WFP, the World Food Programme. People have come today, they're getting 2 sacks of wheat flour, 10 bottles of cooking oil and a small bag of soybean. It's not very much, and that's all families will get for the next 2 months, but it will keep them alive.
The levels of hunger across the country are staggering. 14 million people, nearly half the population, need food assistance to survive. Leading humanitarians say aid must get directly to the people now, regardless of who is running the country.
Don't politicize food. I don't care which side you're on. Everyone should give us what we need to reach the innocent victims of this complex situation.
The head of the UN's World Food Programme, David Beasley, flew into Kabul over the weekend. More than $9 billion of the country's foreign assets have been frozen by the US government to prevent the Taliban from accessing them. Beasley says that's morally wrong.
All I'm doing is jumping up and down, say, please, you must understand that people are dying. More people are going to die. If you don't unfreeze those funds, unfreeze them in such a way they go directly to the people through organizations like us. I said, what am I missing here? These are innocent people. It's heartbreaking. I mean,
How much does that impact your ability to get food to the people without getting money in the pockets of the Taliban?
we just want to reach the people that are vulnerable. We just want to reach the people that are really marching towards starvation. That isn't complicated. The Taliban has told us, we will stay out of your way. We will support anything you need to reach the people you need to reach. I need for everybody on all sides to take that same approach.
The Taliban has, unsurprisingly, called for the assets to be released to their government. The pressure on the group mounts the longer their leadership is unable to abate the spreading hunger. We sat down with their main spokesman.
The money that was frozen by the Americans is the money of the Afghan people. We told the American authorities, international community, and the Europeans. We've told all countries this should never have happened. The economic crisis can be stopped. Also, we are cooperating with the NGOs and requested help from them.
But it's not just the financial crisis that is keeping people hungry. Drought has gripped the country, with the national wheat harvest down by nearly 1/3 this year. We traveled out to Herat in the west of the country, where the crisis is most severe. In his hard, parched fields, local farmer Mohammed Asif told us his wheat crop this year was 80% down. He has 125 acres, which would normally employ dozens of workers, supporting hundreds of family members.
In the past, we were self-sufficient and relied on ourselves. We had good harvests. This last 4 or 5 years, the drought is very bad. We've never seen anything like this. We have lost 100-year-old trees here. When we have water and a good harvest, then we can keep livestock like cows and sheep and chickens.
On the day we visited, there were only a few people, one of them a child, harvesting a little saffron. The farmer has not planted this year's crops of wheat yet. The ground is simply too hard without rainfall. In the nearby city of Herat, it is clear the scenes in Kabul's hospitals are repeated across the country. Dangerously wasted and thin babies are carried into the main hospital. Doctors Without Borders staff and fund the malnutrition ward, so these children will get some milk and care. But it's temporary. The homes they came from remain blighted by poverty. Mahjabin brought in her only surviving twin baby. At 6 months old, she should not be this small. We don't have enough food. I'm not able to breastfeed, she tells me. We feed her with formula, but I cannot afford it. Few in this country can afford much more right now than the bare essentials. Millions cannot manage even that. As the world watches the fallout of Afghanistan's sudden collapse, the failure to build a sustainable, functioning state in the 2 decades since the 2001 invasion has never been more stark.
The international community in the last 20, 30 years has done a disastrous job here. 75% of the economy is based upon outside funding. I mean, hello, coupled with the corruption that was allowed from year to year to year. Why do you think the people didn't rise up when the Taliban was advancing? Because they were like, well, which one's worse here? And so you've got now an economy that was built on a house of cards, and everybody's to blame. Everybody shares in this blame. And if you don't feed the innocent victims of this chaos, well, you're talking about a lot of dead people.
After surviving 4 decades of continuous conflict, hunger could take more innocent lives here than war ever did. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jane Ferguson in Kabul, Afghanistan.